This is Raising Kings, a space where single mothers raising young Black men come to heal, grow, and lead with power. We're not just raising boys, we're raising kings. Hosted by Jennifer Tolliver, a mother, mentor, and warrior in the fight for generational change. Let's get to work.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Raising Kings podcast. And today I am beyond excited, y'all, because we are joined by a powerhouse woman who's changing lives on multiple fronts. She is a business launch strategist, she's a behavior analyst, an advocate for families with neurodivergent children like myself, and the founder of the Cosey Project, which is a nonprofit dedicated to providing mental health services and resources to the families who need it most. She's also an author and a dynamic speaker who inspires people to take action, stay accountable, and make their visions a reality. Family, please help me welcome to the amazing Sammika Cosey.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for agreeing to be here and for giving us your time today. We really appreciate it. We
Thank
really do.
you.
Yeah.
Happy to be here.
Good. So, I love kind of starting at the beginning with guests because I think our journeys reveal so much about our purpose and what we're doing now. So, can you share how your career evolved into this beautiful mix of behavior analysis, business strategy, and advocacy work?
And so, going into the field of behavior analysis, actually started off as a teacher. And so, I was a pre-K teacher in the beginning, and then probably half of my classroom was diagnosed with autism.
Oh, wow.
So, that's actually what further led me into the field of ABA. But also, I always wanted to help people growing up. My grandmother always told me to go out and teach. And that was something that helped create for me going into helping other entrepreneurs out.
Okay, that's so awesome. So half the class they
Yeah.
weren't diagnosed, and then they ended up what? I can
Yeah.
believe.
So some of them were already diagnosed and getting the assistance that they needed. Some of
Mhm.
the other ones had early intervention, but in Illinois, early intervention stops when they're 3 years old. And so after 3, the families weren't getting any additional services after that.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. All right. So, what experience in your life, if there's one specifically you can name, that kind of lit the fire for you to serve families with neurodivergent children?
When I was growing up, my uncle had
Mhm.
autism. At that
Oh,
time, I didn't know he had autism. I knew that he responded a little differently from others.
mhm.
I knew that his communication was a little different, but he was also very smart. But social wise, he didn't interact like other adults. And so
Mm.
I knew that there was a bus that came to get him to take him to work. And I had no idea what it was at that time until I got older. And then
Oh,
in the community that I grew up from, no one really talked about it. So there was another adult on the block who also had autism. And I remember just seeing him always looking in the window, rocking back and forth. And the only word he was able to say was applesauce. And I
mhm.
just remember him always saying applesauce, applesauce, applesauce. And then my drive for what was going on with my students and realizing what happened with my uncle and other people in the community, that's what pushed me forward a lot more with making sure that everyone understood what autism was and the key for early intervention to get the help that they needed.
Okay. Yeah, that's really good, especially when kids with autism and they grow into adults and they need a whole different type of care. Because my son, he's 10 now, so just working on doing as many things as I can to formulate his independence for when he gets
Yeah.
older. 'Cause
Yes, and
it's
that's
like,
very important because there are so many resources for youth, but when they get into adulthood, there's not a lot of things out there for them to engage in. And then
Yeah.
it also becomes difficult in the workforce for them too, with trying to understand what they need for themselves and then making sure when they do have a job that that job is not going to cause overstimulation for them.
Right, right. And then especially if they're nonverbal or pre-verbal,
Yeah.
I say about my son, I always worry about how they'll be treated, when
Mhm.
I'm not around because they won't be able to express it to me. I mean, you
Yes.
could tell, when they don't like somebody, they usually let for the most part. But okay, let's get to the Cozy Project here. All right. So tell us about the Cozy Project. What is it all about? Who does it serve? And what's the impact that you've seen so far from it?
So, the Cosey Project is a nonprofit organization that I originally started as an organization for social change. So, my original goal was to just spread awareness and let people know what autism was. And so we just went around, started having events, passing out flyers, letting people know like these are the signs of autism. You can go to the doctor to get a referral to start getting tested for autism. And then right before around the time of COVID, we ended up switching to a nonprofit organization, not just for kids with autism, but also for those who have faced trauma and who have had mental health illnesses. So a lot of kids being from Chicago during that time, a lot of kids had lost a friend at the age of 5 or 6 years old in the shootings and things like that that was happening around Chicago. So that's what led us to implement and have autism, trauma, and mental health all together because there was so much of a need that our community needed. And so we wanted to make sure that we were able to provide a lot of different resources that were needed. And so currently for Impact, we have been able to deliver healthy meals the last Saturday of each month for all of the families that we serve. And then we also do community events. So in May, we did a honoring the mothers event. So we brought mothers in, gave them certificates and gifts, and we did the same things for fathers. For Autism Awareness Month, we were able to create sensory baskets for all the kids that came.
Wow.
And so inside of the sensory baskets, they had sand, they had paint, they were able to make sensory bottles. So there was just a ton of things that they were able to do. And this upcoming 30th of August, we are having our first ever game day into where we are getting some of the adults and teens uh, that are within the community to come out because we learned that there's not a lot of things out there for the teens
Mm,
with autism or for teens who are neurodivergent or adults. And so we want to make sure that we start to incorporate that into the services that we have.
yeah, that's so dope. Because I was
Thank you.
concerned about that. Because after your kid reaches a certain age, once the whole Halloween thing and dressing up is over, uh, there's nothing really for them. So you see a few
Mhm.
things with like maybe little dances or little proms, but it's not really well put together. So this is
No.
definitely needed. I can't wait to get involved.
Yes, we're definitely going to send you an invite so you can come and attend.
Awesome, awesome. Okay. So, what are some of the key challenges that families with neurodivergent children face, and how can communities do a better job of supporting these families?
And so a lot of the challenges that I have seen have been related to finances. So, a lot of kids, especially those who, depending on the insurance that you have, some
Mhm.
insurance companies will pay for services versus others who will not. But then we
Yeah,
also have families who, even if they have the insurance, the deductibles are extremely high. And
yeah,
if you're trying to have therapy or having them to go to different services throughout the week, those, let's say if it's 3 days, having a $50 deductible each day adds up. and a lot of families can't really afford that. And then another thing that we've noticed is
Yeah.
as kids start to get older, insurance pushes back a little more, and they don't really want to provide a lot of those services for them. Some other things that we have noticed that our families need a lot is going into those meetings with the school districts. And so a lot of those IEP meetings can be challenging for
Woo.
them because they
Yeah.
may not understand that terminology there, or, hey, I'm my child's biggest advocate. I'm a part of this team. And so in the past, I've sat in on some of those IEP meetings and kind of went through it with the team and with the parent there to let them know, like, a lot of the stuff that's listed in here, especially if they're having therapy services like speech and OT and social work. If they
Mhm.
have hours there, the school has to make sure that they're meeting that requirement. And so we've had families in the past who they didn't have speech sometimes, but it was in their IEP. And so we just wanted to make sure that the school was following through what was inside of that IEP. And I would say the most challenging part for some of our families would be to have their kids to come out into social gatherings, whether it is families or friends or out in the community, because you get a lot of people who will look at their child as being different or
Mhm.
saying something about them engaging in a stemming behavior, like the rocking back and forth, the hand flapping, the constant repetitive movement back and forth. Within society, uh, a lot of people don't understand that that's them trying to help regulate themselves. That's them
Yeah.
putting some sort of input back into themselves. And so I always let families know if it's not harming them or anyone else, it is totally fine. But I think that's something that the community needs to understand a lot more with
Mhm.
understanding what autism is and what it looks like. And I often for myself run into a lot of people saying like, no, that doesn't happen with a neurodivergent person because my cousin is neurodivergent. But
Right.
just because you met one person doesn't mean everyone else fits in that same boat as your cousin. And so that's something else that's also important. So just the community taking the time to understand and get to know and maybe seeing how they can help themselves or educating themselves on it.
Yeah, because that's big. Because when I've just started taking my son to more public places and outside more and to do more things because you're right, people will look at him if he starts stimming or if he just wants to fall down and be on the floor because it's more comforting to them.
Mhm.
And but my issue is like I get upset at the people. Like I start turning into mama bear, which isn't necessarily healthy either. Because 'cause I'm like, "Oh, what you looking at?" And then I'm not taking care of my son because 'cause I'm so
Yes.
busy worried about, what
Mhm.
trying to talk to the people and tell them what I wanna tell them. So, it's definitely would help if the community, um, had more knowledge about the spectrum and
Mhm.
especially the police, because
Yes.
I don't know if you've had experience with that yet, but I just worry so much about my son being in the world, if he does become more independent and something happens with the police and they're like, "Put your hands down," and he's just stimming, and doing what he wants. They don't
Mhm.
really understand that, and they
And
don't really.
as you just said that, I just got chills because that is extremely important, and I do not think that the police officers get enough training
Mhm.
with handling individuals who are neurodivergent, whether it's autism, they have other forms of different ability. There's not a lot of training on that. And then so often we have police officers who will aim first and think last and not understanding that this individual, they don't understand what you're saying, or
Right.
you're saying too much and they can't process that information, or you're
Yeah.
asking them to follow commands and they have no idea how to follow, or you're asking them to, what's your name? And they're
They're not.
nonverbal, so they can't
Right.
communicate with you. And so helping them to understand like what autism is, what it looks like. what are these other neurodivergent conditions and what do they look like, and
Mm.
how they can properly be trained so they can better go out and assist uh, when calls are made or when they do. My biggest fear is with a lot of kids who engage in elopement.
Yeah.
I have a lot of clients that I work with who are fairly young, but they're taller than me. They're nonverbal. So if
Right.
someone sees them walking down the street, they're going to think that they're an older teenager just because of their size when they're 9 years old or 10 years old. And they can't
Absolutely.
verbally communicate to tell them, like, hey, I'm lost. This is my
Right.
name. So, and that is something very important. So thanks for bringing that up.
Yes, absolutely. I've gone through it myself. My son, he doesn't elope. As he's gotten older, a lot of the things he used to do, he doesn't do anymore, thankfully. But he has eloped in the past. How horrible of a mother I am, and they're just side eyeing me and looking at me crazy. But then I can go back to my community of
Yeah.
autism support and explain, and then we can all share. So, yes, it's important to have the community and on your side who have experience with autism, for the police to know what's going on, and then
Mhm.
also for us parents to kinda, because it's kinda both sides. We have to understand that the police don't know, what's going on and make sure we do our part too. So I guess it's both.
Yes, to inform them. Mhm.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely.
And another thing that you mentioned about the community aspect, I think with a lot of police officers, they forget that they're supposed to be a part of the community. So if
Right.
there were kids with challenges in that community that you're serving, you should already know that too. But they
Absolutely.
should
Yep.
also be working toward on getting to know those in that community that they work in.
Yeah. So that'd be something great to put together, some type of something where, you know, you have to notify people in the community when there's somebody bad or, there. So why not notify them of people with neurodivergent needs? If somebody's deaf, you have all the signs up and down the street. So yeah, more awareness. Def.
Yes.
All right. So back to Sammika here. Okay. So you're known as a business launch strategist, and that title alone says action and results. So, if someone listening has a business idea but feels totally overwhelmed, what's the first step they should take? Like, if they could just do something, one little thing to start today, what do you think they should do?
And so the biggest thing is going to be working towards starting. So a lot of people have a hard time with starting, but I will say to just start. One of the things for myself with noticing, if we were riding a bike, right?
Mhm.
And you start moving one leg slowly, that other leg is going to just go ahead and start moving with it, even it without any type of force. And so if you just go ahead and start with the smallest part. Let's say if you have an idea of running your own clothing line,
Mhm.
starting with just getting a name for it and then breaking everything up from there, envisioning where do I want to see this clothing line go within the next 5 to 10 years.
Mhm.
Writing those goals out and then working toward breaking those goals down. And I will always say to, especially in the beginning, it's fine to start with just doing something that's easy
Okay.
because something easy is going to end up building that momentum to get you like, man, I did this. Let me go
Right.
do the next one.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Okay. So start small, stay consistent, don't be trying to
Yeah.
do a little thing and then speed because it ain't gonna. You're not gonna go nowhere like that.
Yes, and sometimes
All right.
that also creates
So
burnout.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Cause me, I have a little bit of ADHD going on, so I'll be doing a whole bunch of nothing. Not nothing but things, but not what
Mhm.
I should be doing. So I end up burning myself out when I could have just did the simple thing that I'm supposed to do. So I
And I
totally get
think that happens a lot with society. We think that the more we do is better, but sometimes being
Mhm.
busy doesn't mean that it's productive. And so thinking
Exactly.
about all the things that you do, what did you produce from it? And so always having what am I going to produce from this in mind when you're doing those tasks too.
Yeah, that's a good idea. You gotta play chess with each task. You can't
Yes.
just oh, you got to think about this. That's good because we don't have time to waste, especially as autism moms. All right, so you bring something unique to the table by blending applied behavior analysis with business strategy. So how does that work in real life?
So in real life, what I do is I, when I first speak to a client that I'm going to be working with, I get their goal. Like, what are the purpose of our meeting? What do you want
Mm,
to do? And then I help them identify their why. And then from there, what we do in ABA when we're working with our clients,
mm,
we have, let's say, toothbrushing or being able to tie their shoe is a goal. We break those into smaller steps for a task analysis. So, what I do with my business clients is also to break their goal down into smaller, achievable steps. And that way, they're able to reach each one, and then that develops into that bigger goal for them. And then also helping them to create a system for themselves. One of the biggest things I would say is for them to create those habits. So sometimes we, just like with our kids, when we're teaching them different things, we have to keep being repetitive until they're able to get it. And so the same things with a lot of the clients that I work with teaching them those habits, getting them to develop those small actionable steps to help them to reach that bigger goal.
okay, so it's not just me that's scattered about, so that's good.
No.
That's good. Really dope. Okay. All right. So you talk a lot about discipline and accountability being non-negotiables for success, which we're sliding into.
Mhm.
So, what are some daily habits or routines that keep you grounded and productive with all the things that you do?
And so for myself, I get up in the morning. So I have a schedule. And so
Mhm.
I will say to, if necessary, to set yourself with a schedule. And I
Mm,
created healthy habits for myself around everything that I do. So also around my house, as you can see, there's like positive affirmation statements. So I
yeah,
set the environment up so that I can be productive. I also create those other habits for myself, like getting up at a certain time. I no longer need the alarm clock because when I wake up, I know exactly what it is that I need to do. And so that can be waking up, meditating in prayer, reading or journaling to start off with. And then there are times where I go in and I create like my social media posts of what I need to do for that day. And so I may spend about 10 minutes just on my social media posts and spread it, schedule it out for that day. And then after that, what I do is I plan what I want the rest of my day to look like. Sometimes it works out completely and sometimes it doesn't because things happen. But it's typically okay when something happens, how am I going to go and respond and maneuver and get around this obstacle that I'm facing right now? And I will also read books,
mhm.
listen to audible books, find motivational speakers on YouTube and listen to them. I am a person who gets up every day and I listen to Myron Golden. Like
Okay.
once a day, I listen to Myron Golden. So that's something that helps for me, but everyone can find something that helps them and motivates them. And the biggest thing I'll say is find your community. Find a
Yeah,
circle for yourself with people who are going to encourage you to stay on target, to not procrastinate, to stay focused on what you are supposed to be doing.
absolutely. So what's your favorite book that you like to read?
My favorite book, well, I will say my life changing book was
Mhm.
Atomic Habits by James Clear. And I say
Okay.
that because that's where I started to build a lot of the habits that I have, I got it mostly from that book. And I will encourage anyone to go out, to grab that book, to take some time and not just read it, to read it write out, and then to try to figure out how does it relate to your life, what you're reading. There was some time ago when I was reading that book, I purchased additional copies, made a post on Facebook, and sent those copies out to people who responded. That's how
Oh,
big that book was for me. I probably wouldn't be a business launch strategist without having read that book. So,
wow. Okay, what's the name of it one more time?
Atomic Habits. And so I got
Atomic.
mine off of Amazon, but it is Atomic Habits. I
Okay.
believe there should be a version, like a audible version also, but
Mhm.
I prefer the physical copy of it.
Absolutely. Same here. Okay. So, for people who struggle with procrastination or self-doubt, what's your advice for moving into a consistent, purpose-driven action?
And so, in the beginning of everything for me, I procrastinated. I did not want to do it, or I will start and I will stop.
Yep.
And so one of the things I set up a reinforcement system for myself. So just like the kids that I work with, the learners that we work with, we once they accomplish something, we provide reinforcement. I
Mhm.
also did it for myself. And so when I was able to write out that schedule, and so I have a habit tracker that was across 30 days of things that
Mhm.
I needed to do. I took away something that I loved and enjoyed for myself, and I was only able to get it once I was able to meet a certain amount of that goal. And so let's say I needed to complete 20% of this.
Mhm.
I completed that 20%. Now I can get access to that reinforcement. And then earlier I mentioned to break those goals down because sometimes we procrastinate because we're looking at something and it's too big for us right
Mhm.
now. It looks overwhelming because we think we have so much to do to get there. But if we were able to break it down into smaller, actionable steps and focus on just that one step of it, it will make it so much easier to get done. And then once that one's done, to go and do the next one.
Yeah.
And then I would say one of the most challenging things for a lot of people is your environment is not built for you to succeed sometimes. And so if you know you have a goal and you want to get up and write in your journal every morning or read this book every morning, but your book is downstairs or around the corner and down the hall, it's
Mhm.
going to be challenging for you to do it because you have so many other steps to even to get to that book. Whereas
Yeah.
for me, I turn around and the book is sitting right there next to the bed. So it
Right.
makes it easier. That's a prompt. It's right there. It makes it easier and more accessible for me to end up doing it. And so I will also say just creating that environment that makes whatever that goal is more successful for you to be able to complete. And that way you can work toward decreasing that procrastination.
Wow. Oh, dang, I got to set up a whole environment and do all the things. But yeah, that's key. That's really important because that's a lot of the reasons, especially, dealing with neurodivergent families, you have to set yourself up or it's not it's not gonna pan out because there's so many variables going on.
Yes. And so sometimes we have like the visuals around the house, making sure that the learners know what to do. Some adults may still need those visuals around the house too. So they remember like, oh, I need to do this today, that today. Once I check them off, I can take them down. So I've even had people to the point of taking a dry erase board and just
Mhm.
having that before you go out of that main door that you see every day with the targets, what you want to do that day.
Right. Ooh, I got to look at it and see it too.
Yes,
And
visualize
everybody
it.
in the
You gotta
house,
see
because
it.
my kids will hold the kids will be like, "Mom, you didn't do number 3 and 4 today." Like, so that's
And
good. Put it on blast.
yes, and that's the idea behind a lot of it too, because not
Mhm.
only do you want to hold yourself accountable, but when you have other people
Yeah.
helping you hold yourself accountable, giving you those reminders, that's going to be like, let me go and do this before so and so sends me that message to remind me to go and to do it. So,
Yep. Yep. I tell my kids that all the time. I'm like, you wouldn't have to hear me fuss if you'll just do it.
yes.
Yeah. So absolutely. Okay. So the woman behind the mission, with all that you do, running a business, running a nonprofit, advocating, speaking, helping people in the church, doing all these things. So, how do you protect your energy and avoid the burnout, that we kind of went over before?
So I would say for myself, within the last year especially, I've been able to create a balance for myself. And so the schedule has been extremely important. And so each day I may be working on a different goal. And so
Mhm,
I have the Cozy Project. I'm currently, I have books that I have. I want to keep engaged. I have on social media. I have business launch strategists where I'm helping other entrepreneurs. So each day like today, it is writing day. Yesterday was the Cozy Project. Tomorrow is going to be working on a new speech. So when I'm doing another speaking engagement. So I just set the
mhm,
time for each day outside of my work hours to develop like what am I going to do for this? What am I going to do for that? And also focus on only doing that for a certain amount of time
mhm.
because sometimes we may be up all night still trying to get this idea out, but our body still needs to rest. And so
Yeah.
for myself, I have now have a cutoff time. And so one day I may be like, okay, after 8 o'clock, we're all done. That's time for us to engage in self care to relax. Another day, my cutoff day may be 7. Another day, my cutoff day may be 9. And that is also depending on my start. And so sometimes I have the opportunity based on my work schedule to start later. But that has been able to truly helped me find that balance just to create a schedule, putting
Mhm.
everything into that schedule and not going outside of it.
Okay. You are so awesome at this.
Oh, thank you.
Because I never you don't really think about it like that. I don't know if it comes from being a single mom, but kinda chaos and trying to do everything at once becomes the norm, and that kinda leaked over to my business, and, like, kinda I said before, I'm like, "Okay, I wanna work on this for the podcast, I wanna do this, then I wanna write this," so I'm trying to work on and doing all these things, and I don't feel accomplished unless I do, but really, I'm not dedicating myself completely to one thing, so it's not gonna be as good as it could have been, had I focused and
Yeah.
then went save something for the next day. So that's
Mhm.
pretty awesome.
And sometimes what I call that is a power hour. So
Okay.
sometimes if you have 1 hour, a couple of days out of a week to just focus on what you need to do for that business and
Mhm.
tune into that, you'll become way more successful than trying to like, oh, I got to do this across all of these different days because now you're going to get to the point of burnout. And then
Yep.
it's going to be like, man, I didn't get to spend time with the children. I didn't get to go engage in self-care. And so you want to make sure that you're always engaging in moments of self-care for yourself.
Yeah.
Because if you don't do that, you can't show up for your kids, you can't show up in your business, and you can't show up for your family or friends.
Yep. That's true. Everything gets half-stepped if you don't.
Yes.
It's not it's not good. I just started taking naps. I'm like, I'm getting older. I'm getting up there and but that really helps. I'm like, "Okay, well,
Thank
my body
you.
needs
Yeah.
naps now." It is what it is. You gotta do it. So, excellent advice. Alright. So what's one piece of advice you give to Black mothers who wanna build a legacy and create generational change in their family?
So I will say the best advice that I can give is to determine your why. Your why has to be bigger than you. Our why is what's going to typically keep us to continue to go and to ensure that we are building and working toward what it is. And so if my why was only related to me, I probably wouldn't have done most of the things that I've done. Uh, to remember that whatever you're doing is going to outlive you. And so if your goal is to create a legacy for your children, it's also going to create something for the people that your children are going to impact. And so even after you're gone, just remembering that. And so that should be the focus on continuously going toward that improvement and reaching that goal. And just going out and starting.
Yeah.
That's the
Absolutely.
biggest thing
That's
too, to
excellent.
start.
Yeah. Just do it. Just start
Yeah.
something
Just
somewhere,
go
I
ahead
should
and start.
say.
Go ahead and start. Believe in yourself,
Yeah.
not to give up the hope. A lot of people have fear. Sometimes our fear is a failure, but sometimes it's also fear in
Yeah.
succeeding. We're afraid to go ahead and succeed for what it is that
Mhm.
we do want. And so I always tell people that if you go out and someone tells you no, you just heard a no. But if you never went out at all, you never gave yourself the opportunity to hear a yes.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
so making sure that we just go out and start. And
Yeah.
then thinking about if it doesn't work out the way we wanted it to, it's just a learning step for us. Now we learned what doesn't work. Let's maneuver around that and figure out what does work now.
Yep. Yeah, because I kinda get motivated. It wasn't always like this, but I kinda get motivated now when I hear a no, because it's like a detour, like, "Okay, so now I get to find the yes." It's like a bump.
Mhm.
You hit you go bowling, the bumper that's gonna get you towards the middle where you need to go. So it's like, "Okay, no,
Yeah.
that ain't working. Let me find."
Find a different way to get there.
Yeah.
Think about if we were doing like an obstacle course and all of these different things we gotta jump over, stuff is being thrown through at us, we gotta crawl through
Mhm.
the mud. How will you get to the finish line though?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
you'll have to figure out a way to defeat and overcome all of those challenges.
Yep. And everything isn't good out here, and God will definitely set up a no to help you. So it's
Mhm.
never, a bad thing to me.
Mhm. And then sometimes I also think about sometimes we hear a no because that's not what God wanted us to be in.
Mhm.
We're not
Yeah.
aligned with that. Maybe there's something greater for us that we're supposed to be doing,
Yep.
and we're just waiting to realize what that is.
Yeah. 'Cause a lot of times you look back and like, "Thank God. Woo, I'm glad
Yes.
I got that little."
I didn't go there.
Yep, because you don't see all the things that's going on up in there.
Mhm.
That's good. And I like you said, just start. Because when I didn't wanna start my podcast at first, I'm like, "I need a studio. This person has this, they got this." But it's like, okay, that can happen for you one day, but if you don't start, is it gonna happen? How are you gonna come into the contacts and meet your tribe and the people you need to meet if you don't, put yourself out there? So,
And
excellent.
really thinking about, let's say what you just said, because you were
Mhm.
saying, like, I want this big studio. But over time, when those things start to happen, you're going to be able to look back and say, man, look how I have grown.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
it's always about the journey along the way. So,
Yeah, it's such a beautiful journey, a beautiful struggle life is. I ain't gonna say it's always a struggle. I'm trying to watch the words I project into the world,
mhm.
but you know what I'm saying.
Yes.
Alright. So, what is next for you? Samika, the Cosey Project, what's going on? What's coming up?
So for the Cozy Project, we are going to be doing our first ever social group. We're gonna have
Mhm.
a game day for the families and the communities that we do serve. And then for myself, I am working on my first book, audio biography about
What?
myself and my life. Most
Okay.
of the other books I have written have been journals or children's book, but I am going to share my story about my journey as a child, my health, and things like that, just to encourage other people to never give up
Mhm.
despite the challenges and obstacles to continue
Yeah.
to go. And then also with the Cozy Project, we are working toward building more so that way eventually we can be able to help families to actually pay for therapy. And so that's another big thing for us.
Yes, that is so much needed because the insurance trying to navigate that whole thing is insane because you it is crazy. So, alright, and where can we find all of your books? I know you say you got a lot, and I'm gonna put it in the description, but how many books do you have out? Where can we find them? Because all this you done gave us in this 40 minutes is intense, so I wanna read into the details.
So all of my books are on Amazon. So you can go to Amazon.com and type in my name, Sammika Cosey, Sammika, last name Cosey. And then all of the books should show up for you. I have a children's book. The first one I wrote was Imani's just a story about a little girl named Imani and her natural hero journey. The other journals that I have are for growth mindset. One is geared toward adults, and then the other is geared toward children. The one geared toward adults will help you to set up goals, also to create a lot of those habits that I spoke about today. And then I have another book for children, one being a coloring book with a lot of positive affirmation statements in there that the kids are able to trace. And then at the end of the book, they're able to draw themselves and create their own positive affirmation statement about them.
Oh, wow, that is so dope. That's awesome.
Mhm.
I can't wait to get those and read them. That's cool. Alright, so other than that, how can our listeners connect with you and follow your work and get involved in your mission?
And so, if you would like to get involved with the Cozy Project, you can go to thecozyproject.com and send us a message, or you can send us a message at thecozyproject@gmail.com. I can be found on Facebook, Sammika Cosey, on Instagram, uh, Dr. Sammika Cosey, and then on LinkedIn as Dr. Sammika Cosey also. And
Awesome, and I
then
put
also
you
going to the website, I am Sammika Cosey. You'll be able to find different events that I do. Anytime I'm doing an accountability container for across 3 days where I help entrepreneurs to actually launch their business. And so I will probably do another one of those in September.
Okay, that's coming right up too. Okay,
Yes.
can't wait. So, family. Yes, I wanna and then I'm gonna start bringing my son outside more, so I'm really looking forward to all these events, because we go
Yeah.
out, but I get nervous and I wanna cuss everybody out, like, "What you looking at?" So I need to find the right environment, so that's to
Yes, and
get us
sometimes
going, so
sometimes
good.
it's hard when you're out in the community because everyone's looking and staring. And I have a lot of mothers who will typically want to let people know that their child has autism or has a different ability, but it's not always necessary for them to
Right.
have to go out their way to tell someone that. Like, a lot of
Yep.
people need to be more helpful in those type of situations. I do wanna share this. Uh,
Mhm.
when I first started, working in the field of ABA, we took a group of our kids on field trips. And so we
Mhm.
took them one day to 2 different places. We took them to the grocery store, we gave them lists and things of
No.
items that we were gonna be shopping for. And then we took them bowling afterwards. And so we went
Mhm.
into the grocery store, and one of our kids was about to knock something down. A guy came and he was like, "Ma'am, would you like any help?" And I was like, "I have it, but thank you so much." And then as we walked further, there was a lady who said they should have just left them at home. Like,
What?
yes.
See,
And
that's
this is
my
when
that's
there is
my
so much
problem with
education needed within our community. Like,
yeah.
a lot of people don't understand what parents go through, especially a single mom, because she
Yep.
can't just leave her child, her son, her daughter at home, and she's the only parent there. She's going to
Right.
have to bring them to the grocery store. They're going to have to go into those restaurants in those public areas with them.
Mhm.
And some of those experiences, not from everyone. When we went into the bowling alley, someone in the bowling league turned around and they paid for everything for the kids.
Oh, okay, that's
They
good.
paid for their food, they paid for their bowling and everything else.
Wow.
So there are really great people out there, but there are still a lot of people who need more education.
Yeah. Yeah. At least 'cause I'm still mad about and they should have let see, that's my problem.
Yes, and it was hard, being with them and looking at this lady as she said this.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
sometimes people don't think well, people assume because a lot of the children we serve, they're nonverbal, so they don't say anything. That
yeah.
doesn't mean that they didn't hear what you said.
Yep.
And so we have to
That's
be
a
very mindful of that, that they have feelings too. They have
yep.
emotions. They may not
Mhm.
be able to fully express them to you, but it's there.
Yeah. Absolutely. I say that to people all the time because, I'm around family and they're used to my son not talking, but they'll get to saying stuff. I'm like, he can hear you still,
Yeah.
like he's still a child. He can hear you. And they catch themselves. They're like, oh, I'm so sorry. Because it's hard to forget. I'm
Mhm.
like, he's not mute. He's
Yeah.
just not talking right now, but he can hear, he can process what you're saying. He can formulate an emotion based on it. So, yes, watch what you say.
Yes.
Definitely. Okay. Thank you for doing that. Just from an autism mom, and doing it in such a joyful, like abundant way, such solid. The foundation that you have is very solid, and I can tell that you really actually care because so many
I
people,
do. Yes.
yeah, they claim to advocate or it's something they went to school for, or maybe they're just burnt out, but you don't feel the love and dedication. So it's kind of like,
Mhm.
yeah, okay. So I really appreciate that personally.
And I always try to put myself in someone else's shoes. If
Hmm.
I was someone different, I would want someone to give me the same type of things that I'm willing to give to someone else. And so I will always put myself in someone else's shoes. Like, how will I want someone to treat me?
Yeah. And I tell a lot of the parents that I talk to, or just people, like, if autism is genetic, it could have been you. It could have
Mhm.
been any one of us
Yes.
genetically. So you have to keep that in mind when you're dealing with your loved ones. Just
Mhm.
like you said, how would you want to be treated if it had been
Mhm.
you? Because it obviously closely could have been because it's in
Yes.
your genetics. So
Mhm.
definitely. All right. You have anything else for the people?
I just
Any-
want to thank you for having me, but also thank you for pushing forward and actually bringing
Yeah.
your podcast to life and sharing your story about your son and
Mhm.
putting forward a dedication to helping out those single mothers out there raising sons. So thank you.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that encouragement. All right, family. So I really hope y'all are as inspired as I am right now. Sammika Cosey is living proof, y'all, that discipline, strategy, and heart can truly change lives in real life. So be sure to follow her, support the Cosey Project, and share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. This is how we rise together, y'all. So thank you for watching. Thank you for joining us, Sammika, and everybody have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.